Good morning. I hope everybody had a great weekend and is looking forward to today's topic, which is consumer behavior. Today I'm speaking to you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, where I've been spending the weekend. And I realized it would have been better to record the global chapter from Winnipeg, but things are what things are. So instead, you're getting consumer behavior. The consumer behavior lectures are going to be broken down into two parts. In the first part, I'll talk to you about the basics of consumer behavior, get you to take a look at a couple of videos, and then come back and we'll take a look at some of the influences on consumer behavior. Essentially, consumer behavior is how consumers make decisions and the impacts that external environments have on them when they make decisions about buying a particular product or service. At the core of consumer behavior is the concept of value. Consumers will only buy a product if they see value in it. Now, value consists of three different ideas. The first one is the expected value. Every time we buy a product, we expect to get some sort of value out of that product. We expect it to last a certain period of time. We expect it to have a certain type of quality or level of quality. And we expect it to have a certain amount of good use for the dollar we're spending. Consumers will only buy a product if the value exceeds the price we're asking for the product. So they have to see more value than they're getting for what they're paying. If they don't see that, they're not going to buy the product and they'll pass and purchase something else. Now, most of the values I've talked about, whether it's quality, whether it's timeliness, whether it is value for their dollar, those are what are called utilitarian values. Utilitarian values are the degree to which the product or service that was purchased has met the needs of consumers. And when they come in with that expected value, you've got to make sure that the value you're delivering is higher than that expected value. So the utilitarian value you're delivering, whether it's in the quality, the price, the number of units they're getting inside of it, the amount of time the service lasts, all of that has to exceed their perceived value. Now, there's another type of value consumers are interested in as well, and that's called the hedonic value. And the hedonic value comes from, does the consumer feel good about purchasing a product? Sometimes consumers buy product not because they have a need for the product to be used, but because they have a need to buy something to make them feel better. And when they do that, that's called hedonic value. Now, there are circumstances where the hedonic value and the utilitarian value work together. Best example to give you is a restaurant example. If you're looking for a steak dinner, you've got a variety of options to choose from. You could go to Outback, you could go to Texas Roadhouse, you could go to a variety of other steakhouses that are in that mid-price point range. But sometimes, because it's a special occasion and you really want to show it, you choose a restaurant like Ruth's Chris or Morton Steakhouse. In the case of those, you're getting both the utilitarian value, you're getting a good steak dinner, but you're getting a hedonic value as well, because you've gone to a place that has given you a certain pride of ownership, or you feel better just for having been there because it's a special occasion. Most consumers spend their time buying based upon on utilitarian value. Most consumers spend their time on a utilitarian value, but you shouldn't neglect hedonic value when you're looking at what a consumer is doing. Okay, so how does a consumer make a decision? And let's take a particular product. Let's say they're going to buy an iPhone or they're going to buy a new smartphone, okay? You decide you want to buy a new smartphone. And we'll hold it right side up just to make it easier. Okay. You decide you want to buy a new smartphone. The first thing you have to have is a need recognition, okay? Once you've got a need recognition, that says to you internally, I've got an imbalance. There's where I want to be and where I am now. So there's a difference between the actual and the desired state. Now, in the case of a smartphone, The difference between the actual and the desired state could be the result of the fact you dropped your existing phone. So you've got a cracked screen, I've got to buy a new one. It could be that you got a note in the mail from your cell phone provider saying, hey, we'll give you a deal if you buy a new smartphone, whether it's a Samsung or an iPhone. Or it could be that your phone is just old in your perspective and you want to get a new one. So what you've got is you've met this need imbalance. The actual solution you have now is not fitting your need for one reason or another. And the need you have is a desired state to have a better phone, better camera, more memory, whatever it is. Once you do that, then what you start to do is you get into an information search. But before you get into the information search, let's stick with the need recognition for a minute. What causes a need recognition? Well, it could be, as we talked about with a smartphone, that you're looking for a new phone. It could be, if you're doing a strictly hedonic piece, though, that you've decided that you want to run out and buy a phone because you've just graduated. It'll make you feel better if you've just graduated and you have a new phone. You've had that same phone throughout your entire university career and you want to move up to a new one. And it's a treat. Okay, that's a hedonic version. It's a reward for having graduated. Now, the stimulus that makes you want the phone could be triggered by a couple of things. So far, I've talked about externals. You've received a letter from the cell phone provider. You noticed that the screen was cracked. It's an old phone, okay? Sometimes it's internal. And that's really where if you're looking for a gift, that becomes for yourself, a gift for yourself. That's really where it becomes an internal search, okay? Now you're probably asking yourself, okay, it's all about this imbalance. How big does the imbalance have to be? Well, that's really up to the consumer. But it has to be large enough that they want to part with hard-earned cash to buy the product. So we've all had these situations where we go into a store and we get excited about something and we want to buy it right there, but we don't have the money. So we decide to wait for it till we have the money saved up or until we have room on our credit card or whatever. And by that time, you've completely forgot about buying that product. Well, that's a great case where the product really didn't get above that break point that made you want to buy it. It didn't pass over that imbalance high enough. In other cases, let's say you drop your phone, you can no longer read the screen. If it's a smartphone, it's pretty useless at that point. That's enough to get you to trigger and go out and buy a new one. So step one in the decision-making process, need recognition. Step two, information search. Most of the time, about 90% of the time, we rely on internal information searches when we're looking for a product. And what we do is we take a look at our previous purchase experience, we take a look at what we've heard and processed through our mind, and we just take a look at our own experience in terms of buying that product or other products, and we use that to make our decision. If it's an expensive product, or if it's a product that has a high visible value to us, especially a high social value, so things like clothing, gifts, things like that, then we may tend to do an external search. And we'll start by asking our friends. So we'll ask our friends what their position is. Okay? We might surf websites. We'll look at blogs. We'll read articles. The more expensive and the more the risk is of making this purchase, the more external searching we're likely to do as a consumer. When we're doing it, some of that's marketing controlled. So if the customer comes to our website to look up information, let's say on our smartphone, okay, that's marketing controlled. We try and put our best foot forward. We try and show how the features we have provide the benefits we think the consumer is looking for. And we think the consumer is looking for those benefits based upon a variety of research systems or techniques we've run. Sometimes it's through the mass media. So it could be they see a commercial for us. It could be a TV commercial, could be something on the internet, it could be at a mass email we've sent out, it could be they're in a store and they've seen a promotion for our product. Okay, you're going through Costco and somebody's doing a promotion on new smartphones. you look at that. The biggest driver of how much search is done, and if it's internal or external, is perceived risk. The higher the risk, the more people are willing to search. Now, risks come in three forms. There's financial risk. How much is the item? There's safety risk or personal risk. Is this product a threat to me in some way, or not having this product a threat to me? So when you go to buy a car, for instance, one of the things you tend to look for, and consumers tend to spend a lot of time on, are all the safety features. The anti-lock brakes, the passive restraint system, airbags, okay? How well the car has done in crash tests, rollover tests. Those are personal safety issues, and we take those into account as we're buying the product. The next thing we look at is the social risk. If I buy this product, what does this say about me as a person to other people who see it? And we put a lot of weight on that, especially when it comes to things like fashion, when it comes to things like our vehicles, when it comes to things like our house or our apartment. We want to make sure we're living in the right area. We've got the right kind of house for the kind of person we are. And most importantly, when we're giving a gift, we want to make sure we're sending the right message to the receiver about how much we care about them. So we want them to know we spent a lot of time and effort looking at this particular option. The other thing is we're always looking for, did we make the right decision? And a lot of the advertising, especially the car companies do, is designed to reinforce that the consumer has made the right decision about the product. We also take a look at our product experience. Did we have a good experience last time we bought the product? Was it a good product? Did we get value for money? Okay. Did it serve our needs well? Is it missing something? And then the amount of search also depends upon our level of interest in the product. 80% of the time when we buy products, we have very little interest, so we don't do a lot of external searching. Think about the stuff you buy in your daily life. Do you go and do a full search every time you want to buy new laundry detergent, new blue jeans, new running shoes, okay, new athletic shoes? Probably not, because we buy those based on habit. So we just go with, okay, they worked last time, I'm going to do it again this time. Once we've gone through all this information search, we think about all the different options, and mentally we select out the option we think is best for us. That's what we call the evoked set. The evoked set are those options the consumer is going to use, and their decision will come from one of those. Now, 80% of the time, the evoked set is like one product because it's a habitual or a very, what we'll call, low involvement purchase. But about 20% of the time, that evoked set could be 2, 3, maybe even 5 options that we're looking at as a consumer. Once we've decided on those options, we then evaluate them. And the way we do that is using something called the multi-attribute model. Now, the multi-attribute model works this way. We first figure out what are the things that are most important to us. Let's assume we're going to take our significant other out for dinner. So we want a dinner to celebrate the amount of time we've been going out. We've been going out for 6 months. Okay, so that it's going to be an occasion event. So when we're looking for a place to go for dinner, we'll come up with ideas that we think should be there to make this a special event. Do we want this to be a white tablecloth restaurant, for example? If we do, great, that's one of the features we're looking for. Because the benefit we get from that is we're saying, hey, this is a big occasion. I'm taking you to a white tablecloth restaurant. I'm not taking you to Burger King because I have a coupon. Okay. The second thing is, what type of food are we looking for? If our significant other really likes Italian, then we're probably going to look at Italian food, and we'll give that a high rating in what we're doing. We'll look at price point because we're constrained by a budget. So how much do we want to spend per person for this event? We'll have a range. We're not going to say, well, I'm going to spend $10. We'll say, you know what? It's a special occasion. It's a special occasion. So let's say we're going to spend $20, $25 each. So it'd be about a $50 dinner total. Where have we gone in the past? So we're going to take a look at, what are some options that we've had? What have our experiences been in the past? So we put down all of these options in the first column. And then what we do in the second column is we rate them. And we rate them from 1 to 10, where 1 is unimportant to us, 10 is very important. We'll probably have 5 attributes we're looking at. And we'll rate those attributes. So let's say price point's really important to us because we're a poor student. We might give that a 9. So if we can come in below that $20, $25, we're happy. The white tablecloth, we're not as keen on, so we'll give that like a 6. Okay, but we'll rate those. Our next step is to find restaurants that fall into those categories, that fall into the categories we're looking for. So let's say we identify Boca de Pepo, we identify Santa Lucia as an option, and we identify an old Carson favorite, Vinny Abruzzi's A Little Touch in Newark, as the Italian restaurants. What we then do is we rate each of those restaurants on a scale of 1 to 10 on each attribute, where 1 means that the restaurant doesn't satisfy that attribute at all, and 10 means it satisfies it exactly. Then the way we mentally make the decision is we multiply the score of the attribute, that 9 on the price, by the score we assign to each restaurant for that. So let's say Vinny Abruzzi's, because it's an inexpensive restaurant, is a 6. That gives it a score of 54 on that attribute. We then compare the different restaurants by adding up the scores they get on all the attributes. And the restaurant with the best score is the one we select. Now that sounds like a lot of work, and it is. We do this mentally all the time. We just don't think about the steps. Okay? So think about how you would do that. I'm going to have you do an exercise on this in just a minute. All right? Once we've decided which one, we have to decide, are we going to buy or not buy? Well, in the multi-attribute model, it's really easy. Whoever has the high score, we buy. Okay? Then we have to decide how we're going to pay for it. Is this going to be cash or credit? So we take a look at those types of things. Okay? The example I gave you with taking your significant other out for dinner, that's a very specific purchase. Most of us run on unplanned purchases, or we just buy things. We don't even think about this stuff, okay? What I describe as a very planned purchase, what we do for the most part, very unplanned and based on impulse. And grocery stores play on that. So one of the videos I'll show you is how grocery stores play on impulse purchases. And then, once we've decided we're going to buy it, we now go into the post-purchase phase. And we can run into what's called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is when consumers question they made the right decision. And we as marketers deal with that. We try and find all sorts of ways to support them in their decision. Car companies do this through their commercials. Most commercials for cars are designed to show that you've made the right decision buying that particular vehicle. But we also put consumer reviews on our websites. Anything we can think of that gives us the ideal purchase decision. That cuts down on cognitive dissonance. Okay, now what I need you to do is go and have a look at the 2 videos I've posted, and we'll come back and we'll talk about types of consumer buyer behavior.